9 years ago, my mother handed me a packed garbage bag at my high school graduation dinner, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You are a defect in a family of surgeons. Don't ever use our last name again." I walked out into the pouring rain with $0, zero support, and a family that treated my existence like a contagious disease. 9 years later, I stepped into the grand ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton for my younger sister's luxury wedding. The moment my mother spotted me, her eyes flamed with disgust. She sneered, "Why is this defect here?" My sister laughed, steps away from the altar. "You weren't invited, leech." Then the groom, the powerful, ultra-wealthy hospital owner, turned dead pale. He pushed past my mother, stood right in front of me, and shouted, "How dare you speak to her like that? Do you have any idea who this woman is?" I just smiled, adjusted my coat, and whispered, "They have no idea, Julian. Let them dig their own grave." My name is Lillian Hayes. I am 28 years old, and for the last 9 years, I've lived as a ghost to the people who brought me into this world. To understand how I ended up at my sister's luxury wedding, being treated like a street beggar, you have to understand the family I was born into. My parents weren't just doctors. They were medical royalty. My mother, Evelyn, was a chief of neurosurgery, and my father was a renowned orthopedic surgeon whose name was plastered across medical journals nationwide. My younger sister Chloe was the golden child, a prodigy who was practically born with a stethoscope around her neck. And then there was me. I didn't care for dissecting frogs or memorizing anatomical charts. I loved technology, coding, and design. On top of that, I wasn't the polished socialite daughter they wanted. I struggled with severe acne, wore thrifted oversized clothes to hide my anxiety, and preferred sitting behind a computer screen. In my family's eyes, not being pre-med meant you were a complete failure. The boiling point came the night of my high school graduation. While Chloe was being toasted for her early acceptance to Johns Hopkins, my father slid an official-looking document across the dinner table. It was a legal release severing my access to any family trust. He didn't even look me in the eye as he said, "If you're not going to contribute to our legacy, you won't leech off our success. You're on your own, Lillian." Leaving that restaurant with a single garbage bag of clothes felt like stepping off a cliff into total darkness. At 19, while my peers were decorating their college dorms, I was working 16-hour days just to survive. I took graveyard shifts at a 24-hour diner, folded laundry at a dry cleaner, and slept on a worn-out couch in a cramped studio apartment I shared with 2 strangers. My body ached, my spirit was crushed, but buried deep under all that pain was a cold, quiet determination. I promised myself I would never let anyone make me feel disposable again. I spent every spare minute I had at the public library teaching myself advanced software architecture and artificial intelligence. Having grown up surrounded by doctors, I knew the medical world's dirty little secret. For all their arrogance, high-end hospitals were plagued by inefficient, outdated diagnostic systems that cost lives and wasted billions. I channeled my anger into code. I spent 4 years building an AI-driven diagnostic software designed to catch surgical errors and streamline patient care before a doctor even picked up a scalpel. When I turned 24, I took a massive leap. Using my mother's maiden name, Vance, I pitched my prototype to a group of angel investors. They didn't see an outcast high school grad with bad skin. They saw a visionary. Within 3 years, Aegis Health Systems went from a garage project to a multi-million-dollar biotech powerhouse. I poured my earnings into upgrading my health, my style, and my mind. I transformed into a confident, polished executive running a stealth empire. My family thought they had erased me from existence, completely unaware that the girl they threw out was quietly building a fortune capable of buying their entire world. 9 years of complete silence went by without a single phone call, text, or holiday card from my family. As far as they were concerned, Lillian Hayes had ceased to exist. That was until 3 weeks ago, when a gold-embossed envelope arrived at my executive suite. Inside was a formal invitation to my sister Chloe's wedding at the Ritz-Carlton. It hadn't come from my parents or Chloe. It was a mass-printed invitation sent out to high-profile medical tech CEOs by the groom's family, who had no idea who I actually was. Chloe was marrying Dr. Julian Vance, the heir to the country's largest private hospital syndicate, the very syndicate my family spent years begging for prestige and promotions. I held that invitation in my hand, feeling the raised lettering under my fingers. Part of me wanted to toss it in the trash and move on, but another part knew I owed it to the 19-year-old girl who cried herself to sleep on a second-hand couch to stand tall and close this chapter for good. On the day of the wedding, I stepped out of my chauffeur-driven car outside the Ritz-Carlton wearing a sleek, custom midnight blue silk gown, my hair flawlessly styled, and carrying myself with the effortless authority of a CEO. I walked straight into the grand ballroom. I stepped into the pre-ceremony lounge, where waiters in crisp white jackets circulated with crystal champagne flutes. The room was packed with the city's medical elite, renowned department heads, hospital board members, and prominent surgeons. I was quietly observing the floral arrangements when a sharp, horrified gasp cut through the ambient chatter. I turned to see my mother, Evelyn. She wore an emerald silk dress, but her face was twisted in an expression of pure, unadulterated disgust. She marched directly over to me, not bothering to lower her voice as she drew the attention of nearby guests. "What is this defect doing here?" she sneered, her eyes scanning my tailored gown with bitter suspicion. "Did you slip past security to beg for money, or did you think you could leech off your sister's big day?" Before I could answer, Chloe stepped out from the bridal suite, flanked by her bridesmaids. Her jaw dropped, but her shock instantly melted into a malicious mock laugh. "Look who decided to crawl out of the gutter," Chloe said loudly enough for half the room to hear. "You weren't invited, Lillian. Did you dress up in a knockoff dress just to pretend you belong in our world? You're not part of this family, and you never will be." My father pushed through the gathering crowd, his face flushed with embarrassment, as high-profile doctors began whispering among themselves. He grabbed my arm roughly, his grip tightening as he growled in my ear. "You haven't changed a bit. Still seeking attention, still an embarrassment to the family name. Security is on their way to drag you out into the street where you belong." I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I simply looked at my father, then my mother, and finally at my smiling sister, maintaining a calm, unbothered composure that only seemed to infuriate them more. Just as two burly security guards began making their way across the marble floor toward me, the heavy oak doors at the back of the lounge swung open. Dr. Julian Vance, the groom, walked in, accompanied by his father, Arthur Vance, the billionaire founder and chairman of Vance Health Systems. My father immediately raised his hand, signaling the guards while flashing a hypocritical smile at Arthur. "Apologies for this disruption, Arthur. An uninvited parasite somehow breached your event security. We're having her thrown out right now so we can proceed with the ceremony." Julian paused, his eyes landing on me. The champagne glass in his hand slipped from his fingers, shattering across the tile floor. His face turned completely drained of color. "Julian, sweetie, don't worry," Chloe cooed, stepping up to grab his arm. "It's just my pathetic loser sister trying to ruin our wedding." Julian forcefully shoved Chloe's hand off his arm. He rushed forward, pushing past my mother and father so fast he nearly knocked them off balance. He stopped inches away from me, breathing heavily. "Dr. Vance?" my mother stammered, bewildered. "What are you doing? She's nobody." Julian turned around, his eyes burning with fury as he glared at my parents and Chloe. "How dare you speak to her like that? Are you completely out of your minds?" He turned back to face me, taking a respectful step back before addressing the room in a loud, commanding voice. "This woman isn't a beggar. She is Lillian Vance, founder and CEO of Aegis Health Systems." As of 8 o'clock this morning, her company finalized the acquisition of a controlling 51% stake in Vance Health Systems. She is the new majority owner, the board chair, and literally everyone's boss in this room. A suffocating, pin-drop silence fell over the entire room. My mother's face drained to a ghostly white, her jaw frozen open. Chloe gasped, staggering back a step as if she'd been hit. My father stood paralyzed, staring at me as if looking at a total stranger. Arthur Vance, the billionaire chairman, stepped up beside his son, his expression dark and severe. He looked directly at my father. "Dr. Sterling, your position as head of surgery, as well as your wife's clinical privileges at our flagship hospital, are currently up for annual review by Chairwoman Vance. Disrespecting our primary investor on the day she saves our network from bankruptcy is gross misconduct." I calmly reached into my designer clutch and pulled out a sleek, leather-bound dossier. I handed it directly to Arthur Vance. "While reviewing Aegis's acquisition of your network," I said softly, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room, "my legal team uncovered severe financial discrepancies. It seems Dr. Sterling and his wife have been misappropriating hospital research funds to cover personal debts and to fund their younger daughter's lavish lifestyle." Arthur opened the dossier, his eyes darkening with every page he turned. He looked up at my parents with disgust. "Security, remove these two from the venue immediately. Their contracts are suspended pending a full board audit." Panic seized my mother. The arrogance was completely gone, replaced by frantic desperation. She lunged forward, trying to grab my hand. "Lillian, my brilliant, beautiful girl, you know we were just testing you. We always knew you were destined for greatness. We're family." Julian stepped between her and me, giving Chloe a cold, final look. "The wedding is off. I will not marry into a family of frauds who treat genius like trash." I looked at my mother, whose hands were trembling as security guards approached her. "You didn't test me, Evelyn," I said, my voice steady and cold. "You discarded me. You didn't care when I was sleeping on the floor, so don't reach for my hand now that I'm on the throne." I placed my custom business card onto the tray of champagne glasses beside my sister, who was sobbing uncontrollably as Julian's family walked away from her. My father tried to speak, but no words came out as security escorted them toward the exit, under the watchful eyes of the city's top medical executives. In the months that followed, the fallout was absolute. An independent audit confirmed the financial irregularities, forcing my father into early retirement to avoid criminal charges. Chloe's lavish lifestyle evaporated overnight, and she had to take a low-paying residency far away from the spotlight. As for me, Aegis Health Systems continues to transform medical diagnostics nationwide. I didn't get my revenge by destroying them. I got it by outgrowing them completely. Thank you for listening to my story. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that your past does not define your destiny. Your determination does. Never let anyone tell you that you're not enough. Before you go, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the next story appearing on your screen right now. I'll see you in